Any abstentions? 9-0, carries. Thank you. All right, and so coming out of our executive session, we have an action item listed as number 3. It's a motion to approve the MACE bargaining agreement effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. I need a motion.
So moved.
Kathy,
Second.
thank you. Seconded by Jen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Action item number 4 is a motion. Oh, no, this I'm gonna put off. All right, so I've got a motion in action item 4 to approve the report of the September 27th, 2022 Board of Education retreat, but that's going to require a little bit of wordsmithing. So I'm going to request that this go off and be brought back up at the next meeting as an action item. And in the meantime, we will finish wordsmithing it and get it out to everyone for advance read before the meeting. So table. I guess that's I need a motion to table.
So
Take a Jen, seconded by Mary Ann. Okay, thank you. All in, any discussion on tabling the motion to adopt the report of the Board of Education retreat on September 27th? Seeing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
I think that's an aye. And any abstentions? No. Okay, motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Okay, now we are going to ask for any public participation, public comment. And before we do, Emily does her little spiel.
So the board welcomes public comment at our meetings. When speaking, we ask that you state your name and your address. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes in order to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. I'll give you notice when your time is approaching the end. The board is happy to hear from our community, but should not be expected that the board or the administration will respond at the board meeting. Public comment is not a time for public discussion. If necessary, the community member will be contacted for follow-up. If you are joining us tonight via Zoom, we ask that you raise your hand and you will be called upon. Do you have any members of the public in person who'd like to speak?
Great.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, come on up and just state your name and address and then 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Lisa Nee. I live at 40 Chestnut Hill Road, Madison, Connecticut. So I'm very grateful to be here to have this opportunity and to speak to all the people who have done so much, especially over this crazy couple of years. And I really want to give a shout out to Elizabeth Battaglia because she has sincerely, without a doubt, transformed special education in Madison. And I can say that with great confidence. And congratulations, shout out to Jeffrey for their recognition for Unified Olympics, for inclusion, excellence, advocacy, and respect. So I have a very unique Venn diagram here that I bring today. I raised 3 children in the Madison Public Schools. My youngest is a person with a disability. I am on the Board of Disability Rights Connecticut, which is the federally mandated protection and advocacy agency to represent people with disabilities. And more than anything, all the people in this room, I have been a media executive for 40 years. Before I moved to Madison, was the director of original programming at Lifetime Television. So it was at a national network level. So I've got lived experience, I'm a trained advocate, and I'm a media expert. So I am especially experienced in messaging around people with disabilities. I'm here today to discuss why the Madison Board of Education chooses to promote on their website and in the press a segregated summary of the school budget. And I assume everybody knows what that is, but I have copies. Does anybody, do you want to pass those around there? There we go. On the day I came to vote for the school budget, I did so with an ounce of disappointment. How in the name of the ADA and IDEA is the summary of the school budget segregated by general education and special education / services? So you see the handout. A budget, whether it is a school or a town or a company, is a moral statement of how they represent their constituents. And I am not happy with the moral statement that budget states to the public. I started the advocacy on July 7th. I wrote a letter to the chairman of the Board of Education. On July 14th, I followed up. I received an email back that then copied superintendent and Zoe Bruce. On August 12th, I still had not heard anything, so I believe that I shared on August 12th, I came in and I shared the PowerPoint with our superintendent and the chairman of the Board of Education. I emailed a thank you note on the same day and was told I would hear back about any developments. I did not. So on September 25th, I emailed PowerPoint to everybody in this room. On October 20th, the superintendent and I had an email exchange that did not resolve the issue. And here I am, October 25th, 16 weeks after I first started this question and advocacy. And I have yet to get an answer, but I did do my due diligence. There is no other school district on the shoreline, not Guilford, Clinton, Old Saybrook, Brantford, Westport, Haddam, Killingworth, Chester, not Trumbull, presents a segregated summary of the budget. You'll most often see salaries and then maintenance and other categories, but no, I'm going to keep going because there's nobody else here. Perhaps there's a school district that does, but that should not mean that we shouldn't change, because as the mission statement says, every child, every day, leading the way. We should be ahead of the curve. This budget summary supports the attitudes of many of the people in Madison. Until August of this year, this is what was on the Madison website. The town of Madison will place a surcharge on a particular individual with a disability or any group of individuals with disabilities to cover the cost of providing auxiliary aids, services, or reasonable modifications of policy, such as retrieving items from locations that are open to the public but are not accessible to persons who use wheelchairs. Okay, that was on our website until August of this year. Not only is it mean, it's against the law, that statement. The ADA was passed in 1990. I could tell you plenty of upsetting stories about what it's like to raise a child in Madison who has a disability, and now a person who's a young man who is being faced with even more discriminatory attitude. I've had people ask me, when he's applying for a volunteer position in the fire department, well, how bad is he? Without meeting him.
I'm sorry.
We as the adults in this room have the ability to change the message, and it doesn't take money and it doesn't take a referendum. So my question is to you, are we going to change the way we present the budget?
Thank you for your comments. We have a full meeting, and as I said before, the public comment is a time for discussion. But we do appreciate you coming and sharing information in advance, but we can't engage in discussion at this time. Thank you.
17 weeks it will go without an answer.
Wendy, do we have any members of the public on Zoom who would like to speak? No. All right, anyone else in person who would like to speak this evening? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. It's now item number 6, superintendent's report. Dr. Cook.
Yes, so in our format tonight, it's mostly a presentation meeting, and so we're excited to present our district and school development plans. For you, Wendy, could you put the presentation on? Thank you. So this is exciting for us because this is our second time presenting to this Board of Ed. So we had held off on presenting this last year until this board was seated and presented this to you in December. As you may remember, at that point, I had shared with you how we had really put the schools in a difficult situation, and that we were building the district and the school plans at the same time. Typically, they would have direction from us at the district level when they're developing their school plans. We weren't able to give them that direction as we were both working together on that. Our staff at the buildings have really jumped to this work. We're really thrilled. You'll hear that throughout how the schools have involved their teachers and even in some cases students, as we talk about our older students, and then also the PTO and parent input that was received. Now that we are in our second year, we have some data as well to share in terms of the results. The format of the plans have not changed, and as you have received the plans, they're quite lengthy. So we are highlighting tonight, from different areas, each school. There are 4 key areas, the same as has originally been there: academics, climate, talent, staff development, and systems. And when we talk about climate, I just want to point out, we do talk about our climate for our students and our staff and our families. We do climate surveys, as you know. And then when we talk about talent, staff development, we really talk about working with our employees and throughout, and retention, recruitment, and how we develop them to be able to meet the needs of our students. And you will see, I feel this time, much better connection in terms of the district plan and the school plans, how the district level data connects with the school level data and evidence. As I mentioned, you'll see the results from the schools. And we also, had previous plans to build off of as we started to work this year. So it was a much easier process to do that. But this work truly starts in May as the schools start to get their data and results in, and they start to incorporate that. They work throughout the summer with their staff, and then started again in September. Gail and I met with each principal, provided some input, and we came back. And then also, an important part of this is each of the buildings have seen the other buildings' plans and have provided input in that connection, which I think is an integral part of this, because we are not a large district, and so it's really important for us to have those connections between the levels as we go forward. So I will turn this over to Gail to talk about the district level, and then we'll have our principals join us.
Thank you, Dr. Clark, and welcome to our admin team. Since we have a smaller table than a team, if you wouldn't mind standing up when we reach your slides, as you're addressing the slides, that would probably be the most comfortable. Then back down. Is that okay with everyone? Sure. They're enthusiastic. This is an overview of our 3-year academic goals. So these goals are goals that we continue to work on. We're in year 2 of our 3-year plan. And along with those goals, we have very distinct steps and measures that we hope to take over that 3-year period. And I have to say, being in year 2 is always a little daunting because you have things that you've accomplished and you feel really pleased about, you're a little ahead of, and then there's things that you go, haven't quite gotten to that one yet, but I keep reminding myself it's October. So, we're very pleased to really continue to deepen our work with our data teams, our professional learning communities. We want to go after those accountability measures that the state reports on, and that you receive a report later in the year. And also, really that we want to promote continuous learning across the system. We want to make sure that we are looking both at the values of the district and the profile of a graduate, as well as in standards. and that we're looking after high achievement growth in all student groups. So when we do that, there's an example of this. This was kind of a heavy lift, so I'm very proud of this one. There's different data warehouses that you can look at, and of course, data warehouses are only as efficient as the data that goes into them and as the vizzes or visualizations that you can create. So we had a committee examine 5 different products. Each product had its pros and cons. Each one has its complexity in terms of programming and launching. We selected a product called Tableau that connects to our Infinite Campus database. But we also didn't have Infinite Campus fully active in our system. So it was really mainly used at our upper levels and not at our lower levels. So there was a whole learning curve for our elementary teachers. Again, they're such good learners, to be able to use Infinite Campus to input data because they were used to using Excel workbooks. So we had Ching and Sheila work endlessly on creating different vizzes or visualizations of data to be ready for this school year, which was well ahead of schedule. We introduced it to our staff, and we have had our first round of inputs and our first visualizations that have been able to be used and seen in our department meetings. So that is exciting because before we were doing our visualizations by hand, and Ching and Sheila were really handcrafting all of the vizzes that the district level committees have seen and the board has seen. But this allows our teachers to see within 24 hours the visualizations of the achievement of students and of different indicators of success. So that was a big heavy lift and something that we're pleased at. Climate goals are always important. As the board is aware, we are looking at really making an inclusive community. We're focusing on mental health and wellness for our students. We are seeking physically and emotionally safe schools for all. And also we're looking at really deepening our work with equity and agency and opportunity for our students, and to diversify our student voices, really meaning, are we hearing from all kids? Are all students feeling that there's a place for them at the table and a place for them to have voice and a place that they see themselves in the work that they do every day? An example of an action step that we have is, of course, through our curriculum materials. And throughout time, we've been developing our curriculum and going through our curriculum committee. But this past year, we've been really focusing on making sure that we are auditing ourselves and we are making sure that we're looking at different perspectives that we're offering, both through authors and also through characters in books, as well as representation in our libraries. And there was a curriculum meeting where we presented to the board about how we look at collections and libraries and what we do, and that is up on the website for public consumption. And as the team also knows, we applied to the state for our reading program K-3, and part of that state application was to fill out a scorecard where we reflected how we were doing in that. We certainly have more work to do. That scorecard definitely brought it to light, but we are on our way. One of our big focus steps for this is to look after that wellness curriculum, and it is a challenge because we are really trying to take it from a PE curriculum to an integrated approach to mental, emotional, and physical wellness, which is a new way of integration and to really work across departments. So we're in year 1 of that work, but we will be also concluding that work in another additional year. So we're excited about that progress and looking forward to giving more board updates on that work. I'm going to turn it over to Jeffrey to actually go through some highlights of their academics and climate.
Sure, happy to kick it off. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us back. At Jeffrey School last year, in terms of academics, one of the things we focused on was really in the area of ELA, specific to the area of fluency. So we did a lot of work with our coaches and our faculty meetings, spent a lot of time looking at resources for teaching fluency. And we were really pleased with the evidence we collected throughout the year that showed that our students really met grade level growth in the area of ELA. So if you see our SBAC scores showed that 79% of our third graders were proficient in the area of ELA. Our BAS assessments, our benchmark assessments that we use to really assess our students' reading on grade level. So it's an assessment system that we use letters A through Z. For example, letters A through D are reading at a kindergarten level, E through I are kind of first grade, J through M somewhere in there are second, and so on and so on. So we tracked students that were meeting benchmark on these BAS assessments. And in kindergarten, we had 61% of students in the fall meeting benchmark. That went up to 74%. You can see first grade went from 68 to 75%. Second grade went 72 to 83, and third grade 84 to 92. So to have 92% of your third graders reading on grade level as they're exiting Jeffrey going to Brown, we felt was something really to celebrate. And our easy CBM scores in the spring also showed great growth, especially in the area of fluency, with only 5% of our students being high risk. In 22-23, we want to continue work in a variety of areas, but one area that I wanted to highlight for you was some of the work our interventionists and 5 special education teachers will be doing in training for dyslexia intervention and identification. It's really a world, an area that is so complex. So we feel we really want to be on the forefront of the latest in research and instructional strategies. There's so much to know, and we want to have sort of everything in our toolbox. So when a student does present with a dyslexic profile, we've got the experts there right around the table that can deliver really intensive instruction to those needy young readers. In the area of school climate, one of our goals was very specific last year. Specifically, there's a question that the state asks us to ask all third graders. Basically, do you feel there are groups of students in your school that make others feel left out? And that is really the heart of recess and the lunchroom at the elementary level. We're happy to see that from 21 to 22 in the spring, we had a 6% decrease in the number of students that agreed with that statement. So yay for that, that's significant. We were also, as Mrs. Nee mentioned, awarded the honor of being a National Unified Champion School. So that celebration actually took place this year on Friday, this past Friday, but it was really to celebrate all the work that was done last year. And to be a unified champion school, just as Ryerson is, you need to meet certain criteria for inclusion, right? So you have to have students with and without disabilities in leadership roles, in unified sports, unified cheer. You have to do things in your school throughout the year that we've in conversation about inclusion. We did whole school reads, we did Cool to Care week. So it's really embedded in all that we do at Jeffrey, and we'll continue to do all of those things this school year. We're also taking a really deep dive as a staff into one of the portrait of a graduate skills, and that is self-awareness. When you read the boxes of the portrait of a graduate, self-awareness really talks about perseverance and problem solving. It came up in our staff surveys a lot at the end of the year of the kids, they get to a tough problem and they just fall apart. So we wanted to figure out what that's all about this year. We actually kicked off our staff book clubs on the topic of perseverance in our faculty meeting this afternoon. So teachers are self-selecting their book study, and we'll be learning all about best practices and sharing strategies and work samples and continuing that conversation this year.
Ryerson.
All right, great.
Thank you. I have a question. Are we supposed to ask questions now or at the end?
At the end, I think you can ask him, is that right? You want to ask during?
So I mean, there's sometimes it's better to ask it in context, and we just don't get too bogged down in questions.
Want me to go back to the others?
No, I don't need a slide. It's good. So when you said that the grade 3 climate survey results showed a 6% decrease, like how high was it to begin with?
I wish I had those numbers right in front of me. They would be in our Google Docs where we collected
Okay.
all of our evidence for the year. I can certainly get those numbers to you.
I should have clarified that, actually, that a lot of the evidence is actual evidence in Google Docs. So everything's linked. When Dr. Cook and I go around to buildings, we go through the evidence that's linked there. So there's this presentation, of course, doesn't have all of the links. A lot of things are identifiable. So but that's how we use our Google Docs and our evidence, but
It's all there.
it's there.
And my other question is, with the training for dyslexia, is this the first time that we've had training, or do we already have people who are trained?
We have people that are trained and have for years.
They have probably the beginning levels. We've been seeking it. Our goal was to get it before COVID. And then, of course, COVID interrupted trainings. There were some trainings that were happening periodically, but we really wanted to go after Orton Gillingham as a training program. So that is exactly what we've enrolled in now. So there are interventionists and special ed teachers that are going through the Orton Gillingham training.
So this is a continuation, or some are new and some
First,
are not?
yeah, some are new, some are not. We're trying to actually progress everybody through from kind of the basement. So being able to not only pick up where we left off with some people, but actually get some people on board.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Gail, you mentioned the curriculum being written around wellness and PE, the integration. But on that committee, is it made up of, who's it made up of?
So our writers are all the professionals in district that are associated with wellness. So social workers, counselors, PE teachers, health teachers are all coming together. So during the summer, we went through 2 days of training on the new standards and the guidelines. And then all through the summer, we had different groups coming in and continue to do that. Yeah, but we came up with maps and plans and hopes and aspirations. Oops.
Thanks. Well, thank you so much. We're always happy to come together to share the progress and accomplishments of students and staffs in 21-22, and as well as share just the instructional and programming targets for this school year, 22-23. So looking at 21-22, our focus was on the progress and growth towards grade level standards in ELA and math. We really look at the actionable steps that were taken to get to those grade level standards, get to those end results. And I think first and foremost, it is the coaches that are a large part of that work. It's that consistency and that continuation of support for our grade level teachers in making that happen. Best practices, new approaches, out of the box thinking. Those are all key ingredients that really make that happen. Second is the focus that happens at our PLCs on tier 1 work. Teachers are meeting weekly, talking about those ever-changing fluid groups of students in small groups targeted at specific skills that they need to work on for growth and progress towards grade level standards. And so that's the work that's being done there. That's a standard, that's an expectation, and that's a practice that is happening, all under the umbrella of the SRBI model. As well as in 21-22, the spring tutor. That should also be mentioned, as that is that final push as to layering on the supports that are provided to our students to get to those grade level standards. And we were really proud to look at the end results this summer as a leadership team, to look at in kindergarten, our students exited at 79% at or above grade level expectations in our BAS and FMPs. First grade, 73% at or above goal in those benchmark assessments for the BAS and FMP. And 84% in second grade at or above goal for grade level expectations. And our third graders leaving, heading to Brown, right up the road,
at 87% at or above goal. Our ECCBM results continue to have an upward trajectory, especially in that area of fluency. And as well as in previous presentations that we shared last time, our SBAC results were 78% were at or above goal in ELA, and in math, 73% are at or above goal. And I just stress that all of those ingredients are what results in those scores, and lots of great efforts. Actionable steps similar to Jeffrey for 22-23 looks at the ongoing work of training and supports and professional growth in the area of dyslexia. But I think we are also combining that with looking at the type of co-teaching models that we are providing to our interventionists, our special education, and our general education teachers. And why I think that that really combines well is it makes that connection and that bridge between gen ed and interventionists and special education teachers. So we've rolled out professional development in that area. Gen ed, special ed, and interventionists are pairing up and selecting a model, such as one teach, one observe, or one teach, one assist, team teaching or station teaching, to support in classroom support to all students regardless of need. And I think that that provides that connection and that continuity and that ongoing support. I also believe that our first round of data team meetings resulted in interventionists are going to be pushing in classrooms to provide additional support and tiered instruction to front load support, especially in our kindergarten classrooms. In the area of climate, we looked at building trust and relationships within the school, really aims at supporting all stakeholders. And so it's that ongoing communication. I provide daily communication to our staff each and every morning. And part of that daily communication is recognition and highlighting accomplishments and successes, not only of grade level teams, but also of individuals. And I really think that that emphasizes appreciation and it values their work and highlights their efforts. And that creates motivation. Regardless of who we are, we all like a little pat on the back, right? I think that that goes a long way. One of the other evidence that we had for last year was we had a March Madness. If you're a basketball fan, you'll kind of make the connection, but we did it with literacy. So staff got together and read books, videotaped it, and all of our students had a bracket. And they selected the videos of the story that they most liked until we had like a Final Four. We had our Sweet 16. We had all that good stuff. Obviously, you can tell I'm not a basketball person. I'm jumping from 4 to 16. My idea. But the most important part of it was that we built a common appreciation for literacy. And a love of that and enthusiasm, both with our students and our staff. So that really spoke to that climate piece. We also have a positive Bitmoji classroom that is shared K-3, and that aligns directly to our FTL curriculum. And that is something that all students access monthly. It connects again, like I said, to the social emotional curriculum, but it has videos, it has stories, and teachers connect to it in their morning meeting, as well as it's part of quiet time that students can access. So those are things that we took as steps to climate for last year. This year, we're doing a lot with, thankfully, being able to come back to all school assemblies. And we're using Tom Percival's work in his books, and we're coming together as an all school to work on social emotional learning as a community, and coming together as buddy classrooms and doing a lot of all school assemblies along those themes within those social emotional lessons from that common text. And again, like I said, we have buddy classrooms and we have lots of spirit days. Thank you.
effective model.
Absolutely.
In the area of academics, I really just echo what Gail presented from the district with the choice of Tableau last year. You know, when you go back a step, we came together as a 4 or 5 school. We came together with our grade 4 teacher came from the elementary schools, our grade 5, you know, we're a crowd. So there's a lot of different ways to do things that we're kind of enjoying. And it's taken us a little time, obviously, with the pandemic, but this tool and this opportunity is going to really serve our school well, just for consistency. You know, we have the right people around the table when they, you know, for the district committee with our reading interventionists, our math interventionists, our coaches. You know, again, they presented to our faculty in June, and then started with the PD days in August with some training. Mike Ginsburg created a nice pamphlet for everybody, a quick reference check. And we're up and running. And we got on our PD day, we had grade level and department level data team meetings. Teachers are feeling more and more comfortable. And so, but again, this is kind of just repeating what Gail said, but for us, this consistency is really going to pay off in terms of data analysis. And then in terms of climate, again, all of our goals are really to develop a diverse, inclusive community of students, families, educators, community partners focused on mental health and wellness. In 21-22, Eliza Hayes, our school counselor, did an outstanding job bringing in our social worker and our school psychologist to do lessons going to every classroom on stress management, conflict resolution, friendship skills, coping strategies, you know, bringing a little bit of yoga, really well received. We started our advisory group under the PAUSE framework. You know, PAUSE stands for patience, achievement, understanding, success, and empathy. And our whole theme around that is we take a pause from school, we take a time out, we spend a little bit more time during our morning meetings on those topics. And this year we're taking just another little step further with that. And obviously our daily morning meeting messaging that our teachers do with our students. And you know, we want to continue it in 22-23 with that action set. You know, and I split it through the Sandy Hook Promise program, just for clarification. We didn't adopt the Sandy Hook Promise statement. Our school counselors working with Gail's offices put some lessons related to that. So you want to actually clarify that. Our lunch groups, our wellness lessons, our unified sports, we're going to continue at the end of the year partner with the elementary school. We had great success last year, and we're going to grow that with them. Our partnership with Madison Youth Services is back. You know, with the pandemic, it was hard to do groups, and that's been really great. They've created 2 or 3 different in-school programs and after-school programs, and a lot of students are staying after school working with Madison Youth Services or their lunch groups. So it's nice to have that partnership back, and they actually came in and did mindfulness lessons for all of our 4th grade students. I know they did that in 3rd grade too, I believe. And they continue those in 4th grade. So having that partnership back really will help us with our students. We also have our DESA action plans in terms of climate for the students who need those. We have DESA goals through K-8. We have a DESA team, and then we create action plans based on the data we have. So it's good to have all these different programs happening during the school day and working with our Madison service partners.
Hello, did you see me behind Brian?
Not Martha, not me.
When you looked through this before the meeting, I'm sure you realized by the time you got the polls into academics that this data, this tool, this Tableau is no joke. It has made a huge difference, and we are only in the middle of October. So just as Gail and Frank said, the power is just too good not to mention. I also want to talk about the people who were around the table. Frank mentioned the coaches and the intervention, and we also had core teachers of content like math and LA and world language. So this truly was a system, a program that was looked at by so many people in the organization, and that's how come it's working. I mean, so far we think it's working. The training in the spring was great because we hit the ground running, and to be at our first day of team meeting and see the people looking at the vids, and they really say, Gail, you would love it. Well, let me check the vids. So it's just so critical. But what you also have to realize, it doesn't just show our grades and our assessments and test scores. It also includes things like behavior and attendance and, visits to the health office. This is the whole child we're looking at. So please, when you hear Tableau and you know we're looking at data viz, know that we're looking at the whole child, and not just for intervention, but for acceleration, for enrichment too. So it's a powerful tool. We're so excited to have that whole set in, and we're really looking forward to the year. In terms of climate, I'd like to focus on 3 things last year that we're so excited about. The first is our monthly PAC meetings, Principals Advisory Council. Here we met with a subset of each grade level separately, 6th graders, then 7th, then 8th, so they would feel comfortable talking to Catherine and to me and the counselors. And we met maybe about 10 or 12 every month. I think by the end of the year, we had just over 50% of our student body in a face-to-face with us talking about some issues. So we talked about typical issues, homework, and how do they feel about schedules, and how do they feel about clubs. But we went beyond that. We asked them how they felt about school connectedness and where they fit. We asked them about executive skills and executive functioning and what they thought they needed to succeed. We even had one path where we asked them what they thought about the new wellness curriculum. I mean, not that it was done, but we asked them questions about PE or health and guidance. So just to get, so much of what we do with climate is about voice. And we really heard their voice this year. So we're excited about that. The next thing I want to point out is our diversity club. And we did have that all year. And it's an amazing club that does talk about all areas of diversity, whether it was race or religion or sexual orientation and really the whole gamut. But one of the most powerful events happened at the end of the year when they said to us, can we do a presentation for faculty after school? We want to create it. It was about pronouns. And that's an area that even people who are invested in learning more, we don't know a lot. It is a little unnerving. So imagine this, we're in the library and there are maybe, 5 or 6 of our students, and then there's the faculty, and we're listening to them as they are educating us. It was just a great example of that leadership and kind of that mutual respect that we had. And my favorite part of the presentation was the last line. They put up a slide that said, thank you for your attention, effort, and respect. Talk about turning the tables. That's what we say to kids. Thanks for your attention and give the good effort. We want respect. But they recognize, that we gave them attention and we're trying, and the respect there. So that was one of the highlights, I think, of our year that really spoke to the climate of Polson. And the last thing that spoke to the climate of Polson was the student-driven pep rally. So the 8th graders came to us and said, we want to have a little fun. Now, we don't have all these sports to do a pep rally, not a real one like Ken does. But we called it a pep rally. The 8th graders planned the entire thing. They were the MCs. They organized everything. They recruited teacher helpers. Could you run this game, and you run that game, and you run this game? So we had students playing kind of on the floor of the gym, getting the entire school in the gym at once, which after COVID was a huge event. And we didn't just do the very physical things. We had hula hooping and other kind of races. We had a Rubik's Cube competition. You could have heard the student body cheering for the kids who were just. And then when the kid won the place across, it was just a great sense, and that's to see some of our teachers getting a pie in the face, which kids requested. It was just a really great moment for us, and I think every single person in the gym felt the energy. And even the teachers, last year was hard. It was also difficult for everybody, and even the teachers and staff said this was one of the best days. So looking forward to 2022, 23, we definitely love that the voice, the tolerance, the acceptance, the diversity. We will continue that. We will grow stronger, and we will have many more school-wide assemblies. We are not waiting until June to have it. So there we go. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that? So there's a diversity club, and I'm sure that there's a limited set of students that belong, and there's probably also peripheral students who are allies, people that may have different sexualities or whatever. What can we do, and is there anything that has been done or is planned for an action step for 22-23 to try and expand those boundaries and get like all the students involved in diversity, not just ones in a diversity club?
Actually, and I think you'd be surprised the people who are in diversity. And I think when we think of diversity in this day and age, we're thinking of LGBT plus. It was not that. It was far beyond that. So we did have students who really, they had nothing to do necessarily with that community. So the diversity club itself really is diverse, for lack of a better, hate to say that term again. But it's true, there were more people in it. It was also one of our largest groups. So there's no cap to that group, which is nice. There was no fee to participate in that group either. And they have started to branch out to pull more people in to co-sponsor. So the diversity club with peer helpers would kind of have a fundraiser, or the diversity club in conjunction with Excel Club join to do something. So they're absolutely already kind of branching out, and I think we'll just continue that. We'll strengthen it.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for giving us a few minutes just to highlight a few areas of our school development plan. I'll speak to academics. Brian and Melanie will share a slide under academics. You can see our action step that we selected to highlight was around revising units to align with the current profile of graduate capacities. And the reason we highlighted that particular action step is it's an important part of our NEASC accreditation process, and it has to be completed by November of 2024. So it's certainly a high priority area. You can see some evidence listed under that part of the slide for 21-22 that this past June, a lot of work was done to create rubrics for each of the capacities within each of the content areas. And the departments have been working really diligently over the last few months trying to get updated all of the different units. And if you ask Gail, we have a huge number of units. So you can see in some areas like art, for example, 100% completed, and it runs a gamut across the board. Science as high as 95%, math is just getting started, but this work does not have to be done until the decennial visit, which is in November of 2024. So we're in good shape, even though the percentages differ for each of the departments. That's no concern. As Gail mentioned earlier in this presentation, PE, health, music as well are all currently working on curriculum. That's why you don't see a percentage. Those will automatically be updated as they go through this process, and they complete that prior to that date in November. We did choose to select this as a continued goal in 22 and 23 because, again, part of our accreditation process, but it's bigger than just updating rubrics. When we say 100%, for example, that includes all updates in EduPlanet, as well as all the updates finalized on the district website. And, we're really confident that this work is going to be done. All the coordinators are really taking this seriously and have made a lot of really good progress over time. And again, that's one of the key components when we have our NEASC collaborative conference visit, which is next Wednesday and Thursday. So we're in a pretty good place. So that's on the area of academics.
PJ, can I ask
Sure.
a question? I know that we were, there was a review done, we weren't cited or anything, there was a review done as to the egalitarian, I think, participation in a CTE class.
So that's the Office of Civil Rights Compliance.
Yeah, and I know that they found that we should just continue, like, there was no harm or foul there, but is there anything being done specifically to kind of address? I know that some of it had to do with COVID, and some of it had to do with a couple classes that couldn't be offered for a particular reason in a particular time frame. But is there a particular attention being given to CTE, especially for female students?
I'm not sure that part of the compliance review that you're asking about courses that didn't run. Like the only course we didn't run was Little Hands. That's the course where parents bring in, basically 2-year-olds, during COVID, probably not a great idea. So we didn't run that course. Just for some clarification, the compliance review is a common process that a school gets selected just alphabetically. It wasn't because there was any concern reported to the Office of Civil Rights. That's really important. And it's an extensive process. We had to share data from every course that's offered as an elective with the Office of Civil Rights, with every identifying factor of all of the students enrolled. And we had a great mix of male and female, a lot of diversity. There were students who, are some of our highest achievers and some of our students with the most needs all mixed in. And the report showed we were commended for our efforts, and they actually asked us just to continue with our efforts. I will say our CTE department during the scheduling process does go above and beyond. I mean, they are outside of the one required credit for graduation. Those are elective courses. So you have to sell the courses to the student body, and they do an incredible job starting at Polson in January, talking to the 8th graders who will be freshmen the following year. And then they speak with each of their individual classes. They're in the cafeteria, they're on the bridge. They've done some unique videos or, kind of fake money that really wasn't close to fake money, with different images on it to encourage students to take these courses. And we're seeing a nice balance in the enrollment, which has been really positive. They take the advertising component of their programs really seriously, and our school counselors work specifically with each of the grade levels in small groups to talk about course offerings. I will say the transition to college and career counselor for one of our school counselors, as well as what the Fab Lab could offer, I think will only increase student interest in these particular courses, because they get a taste of some of the equipment that could be used in certain courses. And we even have more advanced equipment in the actual classrooms. So I would anticipate some of our numbers in CTE to actually increase. NEAS just changed their standards yet again. They don't apply to us. They will apply in 2031 when we're up again for the process, but the new standards actually added a CTE component as well. That will be a focal point for visiting committees. And for anyone starting the process this year and beyond, we started 2 years ago. So we're with the almost updated standards. They were updated at that time, but we are in a good place, and we do pay a lot of attention to that.
Great. Thank you for that explanation. I know I didn't articulate the question well, but thank you.
No problem with that.
So if there's no more questions on academics, I'll talk a little bit about climate. One of the big overarching goals for climate for us is basically just to ensure that we have a safe and inclusive school community. So one of the ways that we did this was through our Wellness Wednesday initiative. So if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically 30 minutes of downtime for faculty and for students. And so the focus of that time is not to be spent on academics, but instead to be spent on whatever you feel like you need in that moment. It really is like a what I need approach. So for some students, that's and faculty, so they all have these options, but get outside and take a walk around the track and just get some fresh air. Get an extra snack in the dining and assembly hall, go upstairs and play a chess game with a friend, make a puzzle in the library, sit and read in one of the reading nooks. Like, it truly is just what I need in that moment to kind of feel like I can have a moment to just take a deep breath and take a pause in the middle of my week, and then just keep going and progressing through the rest of my day. So in 21-22 specifically, we had wellness on average of 3 times per month for 30 days. So we tried every single week. Obviously, there were some weeks where it was like a shortened week or a strange schedule, but really we tried for it every single week. The students and the faculty loved it so much that when we were coming up with a fundraising effort, they set a goal. So they basically set a school-wide threshold where families and parents can make a donation. If they donated $5, it was this much of a reward. If they donated $10, etc. But they did that to actually get and earn an hour of wellness by reaching a school-wide goal. So it was everyone sort of contributing to this one benefit, which was obviously to raise money for good reason and for the classes to be able to do things in the future. But their reward that they wanted was just more wellness. So it was really nice to see that they value that time so well, and the 1 hour wellness was really well received. So to continue this work in 22 and 23, wellness is continuing. So we still offer that on a weekly basis, but we've piggybacked that with our new advisory program. And so the advisory portion of wellness is a little bit more structured. The wellness component is purposefully unstructured. It really is to give people what they need. But the advisory component has set lessons that really focus our social emotional goals for the year. So we're just hoping to implement both of those things together to support our entire school community, students, faculty, staff, etc.
Can I just give a little feedback on that I'm hearing after the first advisory session?
Yeah.
I'm hearing that some of the students they absolutely love Wellness Wednesday. Some of them are expressing a feeling of resentment because they feel like some of their Wellness Wednesday is being taken away by the advisory program. So I don't know, that's just putting it out there so that you can consider if there's a different way to present it, or maybe it sound like it doesn't come out of Wellness Wednesday or something.
That's a great point. So we did, we really had to think about how we can work our schedule. Obviously, we have to have so much time for academics. We have to have so much time for the state that we mandated 30-minute lunch. Like there's lots of things that are sort of mandated. And so we had to do a little bit of a pull and tug in terms of when it comes to how much time we can offer for advisory, how much time we can offer for wellness. So they're both still there. But yes, there is some time where it might feel like advisory is 30 minutes, wellness is 20, or vice versa. And so, yeah, so is that what you're feeling too? Like a little bit of that? Like, where's my extra 10 minutes for my wellness? But we also had to make sure that everyone got 30 minutes of lunch. So there's only so many minutes in the day.
Do they have a choice with that? Do they have a choice whether they can do wellness or advisory, or how is? No,
our goal is to be able to offer both.
right.
So we really, the structured component and the topics that we cover in advisory, to ensure that all students have a trusted adult in the building, it's really important for their social emotional health that they have that. So we formed our advisory groups based on 2 faculty members and a small team like my advisory that I share with one of the school counselors. There's 10 of us together, and you sort of stay with that group over the course of 4 years. So I have seniors this year, but then next year I'll get a set of freshmen, and then we will stay together for the whole 4 years. So
the teachers don't, I worked in another school district where they had advisory, but they had the students rotated to different people. Different teachers or administrators, and they discussed different things, and the students were the ones who gave the topic or asked what they could do. So I just wondered if, like if somebody wanted to do something, if they could do it all at once.
So the great point that you brought up was about students being able to voice, like, what is it they want to do and what topics they want to cover. This past week in advisory, the topic that we covered was selecting student leaders. So every advisory has identified one or maybe more than one, but student leader that came out of that group. And so to Seth's point earlier about getting like more inclusivity and allowing everyone to have voice, every single advisory, so if you think about how many that is, or I don't even remember exactly how many representatives they got, but it was like 40, 50 kids that are going to sit around the table with the advisory leaders and actually give suggestions on what topics are important, what topics are timely too. Because we can have the best laid, like scripted program, but we all know that things come up in the world and in our community and in our school that are timely and we need to talk about here and now. So it just gives us the space and the structure to be able to have those conversations. Our hope is that by having like relationships with these students and then having relationships with us, it allows us to have those difficult conversations when needed much easier and more genuine. They're not just coming to me randomly because they have an issue. They're coming to me after seeing me every single week for a week on end. Now when there's a problem, I'm not a new face to them. I built a relationship with them. So that's the idea behind advisory. We just kicked it off. So I get that, like the change of what they feel like. You're taking some of my unstructured time away. But it has so much purpose and so much value, but we need to let it live a little bit for them to see that. And
I agree 100% because there's always a perception difference between what we're trying to accomplish for the kid and how they're accepting it or not.
Right.
And it just started. It needs to kind of ferment a bit. I mean, some of them are jokingly calling it group counseling, but honestly, it is probably one of the most important things
Yeah.
that we're doing right now. So I 100%, support everything you're doing there and applaud you for doing it. I think it'll just take a little time. And what'll happen is if there is something in the national news or something worrying to the kids, and it becomes a topic in each of their little groups, maybe they'll grow to appreciate over time and not be as cynical about it. And one of the main things that we are focused on as a priority as a board is the mental health, anxiety and depression and suicidality crisis that we're facing in this district and as well as all schools around the country. And there's nothing more important than this right now. So I'm giving you feedback, but it's not intended at all to push back. In fact, the opposite. It's reinforcement. Like, I'm just giving you the feedback that we're hearing from the kids so you can adjust a little, whatever, but it is awesome work. And thank you very much for that.
We have some amazing kids who I think have really great relationships with the three of us. Like, we've heard it from them. So I mean, they'll stop by your office and say, "Psst, I just tell you something about today's lesson." We're like, "Yeah, come on in." So we have heard it, and I think that it's nice to hear that it's just like an echoed, sentiment. But hopefully, again, our belief is that each of these little groups can morph into really trusted, small communities within the community, basically, is what we're hoping for. So, but it does take time.
Yeah.
To be
Maybe
grown
just
and
stir some of
nurtured.
that bread during it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
bigger bake
my group made a ground rule that we must celebrate birthdays. And so we have a birthday list and we bought like the little cheesy like McDonald's birthday crowns and the kids like it's so silly, but it's again, it gives them just a space to do that. And these are with 17 and 18-year-old seniors. They wanted to celebrate birthdays. So like I think that those are the unwritten curriculum that's happening during that time. Like that's not structured, that's organic. And that's just like building relationships with kids.
And one of the things I have to say too is as the kids are coming up from Polson, one of the things I was really impressed with what Polson is doing during their monthly PAC meetings is asking the kids, like, what do you need? What can we help you with? And it's creating that level of, or that ability to be in self-introspective. So as they come up through the high school system and they're doing these advisory times, they're going to be more in the mindset of, having some relaxation time, but also having these learning moments and being able to self-evaluate and provide that feedback to you guys about what type of advisory lessons, so to speak, would be most meaningful to us at this point in our school year or our educational career, or in reference to what's going on in community or national pictures as well. So, I mean, I just think that as everybody comes up through the system, it's going to be like such a great blend. It sounds very exciting to me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. We're
Thank
going
you.
to move on to our next two categories, which is our talent goals as a district. I think I mentioned before the importance of professional development for our faculty. Our faculty is in this profession for 35 years on average. It's really important that we keep growing as a profession and that we do so in content as well as highly impactful instructional strategies. And I think you heard from the presentations before that we focus a lot on small group work, individualization, and all of the research is saying that's what really makes a difference in academic and social emotional growth. So as we're recruiting people for our district, we are trying to think about how to draw new talent in that has the ability to connect with kids, but also have highly skilled professional knowledge in their content, but also our commitment to them to grow them in the profession. That if they come here, we're going to give them coaches, we're going to give them high quality professional development, we're going to be able to expand their practice, and we're going to continue to grow them. We have made some good progress in that, but as you know, the talent pool is shrinking in our profession. So we're trying to come up with more and more creative ways to attract new talent. But one of the things that we recognized, through the past couple of years is just the importance of purposeful cross-training with our regular education teachers and our special ed teachers. And I think it's so easy for a district to be torn apart by the legalities and special education teachers' roles and the amount of time that it takes to make sure that they are trained in new systems and new laws, that we don't take enough opportunity to really draw them into the world of regular education. And that really has been a huge focal point for us, as you can tell by the long list of evidence that we have. We are cross-training as much as possible. We are really calling our teachers together. They are also coming to mutual coaching sessions with our professional learning communities, which is again a purposeful piece that we're trying to draw in more and more in the year to come. And you've seen this action step in a prior slide, is that we have successfully scheduled our Work in Gillingham training for special education teachers and our reading specialists for this year. That actually just came through in the past couple of days. And the Wilson training has been ongoing from the past year and will continue, or the past 2 years, and will continue as well. So that is really exciting for us and our ability to grow all learners. No system works without, or no district works without really strong system goals. We are a system, and in that system, we really have to look at things like scheduling and really looking at our up and coming district transition in a really critical, purposeful way, how to create systems that grow our communities together before the 2025 year. And how we continually, as a system, look at understanding where there's achievement gaps, where there's opportunity gaps, readiness gaps, and of course, data plays a role in that, but also people are part of our systems too. Really looking at our student supports well before they come to school, and continuing with our goal setting is something that you'll hear interwoven. And one of the things that it took a look at was the multi-tiered system of support and scientifically research-based instruction. And of course, that's acronym soup to everybody around the table. But basically what it does is really say that kids need tiered supports, not only for academics, but social emotional supports. And we have been pursuing that. And you can see some intervention data. There's a district-wide team that meets and reviews intervention data as a district, and our ability to exit students from tiered supports was pretty remarkable last year, even amid the conditions. So we're seeing success, whether or not we're moving out of tiered support or to a lesser tier of support. We're meeting with great success. We have also paid attention to our EL students, our English learners, and trying to think really carefully about what is transition for them in terms of language acquisition compared to when they truly need a different kind of academic support. So understanding that through research and having a real active role for our EL teachers in that has been very exciting. So we talked about the data vises, and one of the ways that we use our data vises is to be able to look at subgroup performance compared to whole group performance. So that has been a new addition as well. So we're really trying to do some real understanding of smaller populations. That's kind of tough in Madison because some of our numbers are so small, they're really identifiable. So we have to be careful of our buckets and how we examine that progress. So I'm going to transition again to Becky.
Yes, and if it's okay, before I jump into talent and systems at Jeffrey, I will go back to the question that Dr. Infantine-Weiss asked about our climate question. And to answer your question, in the spring of 2021, we had 69% of kids that felt there are sometimes groups of students at Jeffrey School that make others feel left out. And again, that improved in April of 2022 to 63% of kids agreeing with that statement. So it's not that 63% of kids made others feel left out, it's that they saw a group somewhere in their school year that where they were with it to that. Does that answer your question?
Accessing her data.
Yeah.
All right, for talent at Jeffrey, one of the the strategies we utilized last year is we did our first official session of instructional rounds, where the most very basic level, you pick a problem of practice, something you want to look at in your school. For us, it was fluency last year in reading, and you bop around to classrooms, you see all the great things that are being done, you notice patterns. And you go back in a room and very objectively discuss what you saw students doing and make plans for moving forward. We had only scheduled one session of instructional rounds last year, but the teachers who didn't get to go on the rounds, the teachers who the rounds came to them said, well, when's it going to be my turn? So we added in a second round in May at the end of the year. So just really great conversation. We have so much talent here in Madison at Jeffrey School, want to celebrate that. So we actually have 3 sessions planned for this school year. An action step in sort of, again, under talent, but in a different realm for this year is that we are also piloting, and you've heard Ryerson talk about this a little bit, the co-teaching model. So I have 5 classrooms where a special education teacher is pushing into a general education classroom, and those 2 teachers are co-teaching foundations together. We chose the foundations program so that we could sort of start all in common language in the same discipline. Foundations program is quite structured in what you teach and how you teach, so it's sort of an easier one to dip our toes in. And we've made that really protected time across the building. In foundations, no student is pulled out for their math support or their counseling support or speech services at that time. It's every kid every day receiving that really critical foundational support. And we worked back in the spring to place students in these co-taught classes that we knew might struggle a little bit. So who are the students that are going to benefit the most from having a specialized special education teacher who knows how to do specialized instruction alongside the regular education teacher who knows the content? It's been magical. So Sherry Farmer, our special education coordinator, this has really been her charge. She and I have done little mini instructional rounds, just the 2 of us bopping around the classrooms. We've done that 3 times already, and it's just really neat to see it all in action. So lots more good to come of that. I'm hopeful. In systems, last year wanted to really celebrate the work of our social worker. I don't know how we ever lived with a 0.5 social worker at Jeffrey School, because I've told people this week, a lot of people working hard at Jeffrey School. Some of the hardest working people right now are the social worker and the school counselor. It's a revolving door of students saying, hey, my child's struggling at home. Do you have someone that they can talk to at school? Hey, this child's really struggling with, anxiety, worry. Lot of meetings just to kind of keep kids afloat recently. So I won't read all of this to you, but she did amazing work last year and is continuing to be a huge resource to our students, our families, our teachers. And we're, because of the need that we're seeing right now, we are formalizing, we hold a monthly SST team just for students of social emotional concern. So every 4 weeks, students who are receiving tiered intervention in the SEL world, counseling services, somebody overseeing a really formal behavior plan, small group work for zones of regulation on how to regulate their emotions, their progress is being reviewed every 4 weeks. For students who are of significant need, like in our PAL program, those children are being met on bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks. So just having it in the calendar, if it's not in the calendar, things get busy and you just go, you go, and you miss things. So having those meetings in the calendar, inviting the classroom teacher to them, having the whole team around the table, it's been really beneficial, because unlike reading, where learning how to read, it's kind of systematic and it takes time for most kids. This can change on a dime, the SEL stuff. So what was working, we had a kid in crisis last week. Great day yesterday and today. We're like, But who knows what tomorrow will bring? So you have to have these frequent meetings. You have to have that close-knit team to be able to do best for these kids. That's been great.
Quick definitional question under
Yeah.
the talent. The co-teaching with the special ed teachers and regular classroom
Yeah.
teachers. Would that be considered an inclusionary program or inclusion or bringing special ed students into mainstream classrooms?
Not so much that it already is. So these kids would already be in classes together. It's not that by co-teaching, we can include more kids. We're already doing it. We're just giving them a more specialized, specially trained teacher in that classroom. Does that make sense?
Like for their breakouts, their SRPI or something, they would get their special ed teacher instead of like.
So this is a general ed program, right?
Yeah.
So it's in the education classroom. And well, normally it would just be Mrs. Smith, the fourth grade teacher teaching foundations. Now we're clearing our schedule. We're prioritizing that also Mrs. Jones, the special education teacher, is also going to come teach in that room. They might break the kids into two groups so that they can work more deeply, a smaller group of kids. They might mix up the lesson for kids who need reteaching and kids who are ready to go on to sort of an enrichment activity. It might be that they're doing stations, teaching the same content, but in different modalities. They've been trained in a variety of models that they can use in the co-teaching umbrella.
But they act as co-teachers.
Yeah.
So they're
No distinctive separation of like an A and a B team.
right. All kids benefit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
9:15 Jeffrey School. You're welcome to come see in action anytime.
All right, I'm gonna piggyback on the work that Jeffrey's been doing, along the lines of instructional rounds. Ryerson has been, sharing in that great work, those great practices of instructional rounds. We worked at our leadership team, in the summer of 2021, to just reboot on training for instructional rounds, what that looks like. The purpose, and identifying a need. And so prior to COVID, we had done a lot of work on accountable talk. Accountable talk is that ability to converse about a book, disagree, agree, add on, and to have those conversations at the kindergarten level, all the way up to our third grade level. We had done an immense amount of work on that, and feeling like, for obvious reasons, that had been lost, and wondering where we were as we started off the 2021 school year. So that was our focus of instructional rounds. We did 2 rounds of that, looking at where we were, what our status was, and where we needed to go from there. And so we had a team made up of our leadership team, round 1, and then a variety of people who wanted to jump on and be a part of that. And our takeaway was we were still in a really great place, grades 1 through 3. Kindergarten obviously not being familiar with that. So we utilized our coaches to provide ongoing professional development in ELA and math for where we felt we were in accountable talk and where we felt the next level of work was. And our coaches provided ongoing professional development after school at workshop time in those areas focused on accountable talk. Gail was part of those workshops, and I think that those were highly successful as teachers jigsawed through those workshops, getting really small bits of information to easily transfer back into their classrooms on an ongoing basis. So that was great work. That was in 21-22. This year in 22-23, we are really focused on leveraging the work that coaches can do with our teachers, but expanding upon that in my work with the leadership team has been, so each and every one of the teachers has a coaching cycle and a coaching focus in both ELA and math. Some of them may be same at a grade level, but they also may be different. And so it is communicating those focus areas with the leaders, the team leader at each grade level, and carving out PLC time to share the outcome of their work in their coaching cycle, so that everyone benefits from that work and increases their toolbox. So there's lots of times for grade level sharing of the impact of the coaches on their work, and did you know, this is what I got, and sharing that and being able to not only enhance their instructional toolbox, but that of their colleagues as well. And so that's our work for 22-23 in the area of talent. In systems, in all reality, we work at Ryerson in a small building, and we need to maximize that with which we have. And we do so by looking at different schedules and different options. And the only thing I can really pull out of all the work that we did is looking at our kindergarten schedule. And so we really wanted to look at how do we maximize time in digestible chunks to build stamina and have that time. The kids are here, that they're available and they're engaged, and that it is purposeful. And so we looked at not connecting lunch and recess, which is very traditional, and having it separate from lunchtime. And so because we had not many options and we don't want to have lunch all day, so we didn't want to do brunch. So looked at separating recess, and so they go to lunch, then they come back for a little bit, they have their special, they come back for a little bit of instruction, and then we come back and we had recess later on in the day. So nice little small chunks throughout the day. That's one example along the lines of 4 grade levels, but really looking at what we have as a structure, looking at how we can get the most in terms of engagement of our students and being very purposeful. And that has been very successful, and we've continued along that same type of system in year 2. And then, as everyone has talked about tonight, for 22-23, we are loving the biz. We're gonna start getting the bumper sticker, the biz, NPS. But really, that is a great way to really get at what are the strengths within each cohort. What are the areas to target within each cohort? I love to be able to pull small groups, looking at our special education, looking at our EL learners, looking at how do we leverage progress within those areas. And it's really at your fingertips. It can highlight the areas to focus on. It's really just, I don't know what we did without it. And so it is something that teachers are really gravitating to. And it's really at the heart of all our PLC meetings. So we're very fortunate to have that. So thank you. That's our work.
Yay, Ching and Sheila.
Yes.
Yeah, when you think about talent, we do think about Chin and Shield.
Right. They're of course.
You know, in terms of our action steps for talent at Brown, you know, I think Becky just mentioned it, there's so much talent in our schools and across the district, and how we tap into that talent. And we want to grow teacher leaders through our formal leadership team and informal leadership opportunities. Our leadership team, like all the schools, our leadership team at Brown is a key group of people that that represent across the grade levels in the different areas, decision makers. And we have 4 paid positions. And last year was nice to see we had 2 people additionally volunteer just to be on it because they wanted to be part of the decision making in the school. And so when you can do that, and when you can rotate leaders, and again, I go back to, you know, the start of Brown and then the pandemic, and there's still grade levels coming together. And last year we did a really nice job of our leadership team bringing in people. And it's always nice to be around the building and see informal leadership meetings where I'm not calling it, they're calling because maybe it's a field trip, maybe it's conferences, maybe it's organizing this, and you have people who have the confidence and we give them the opportunity to be leaders. We also have district across district leadership opportunities. Dr. Cook has different committees, Gail does, and we certainly have representation at Brown on all those, and we really want to promote that either through release time or whatever we can do to help people just become leaders. Some seek O92 and administrative and other opportunities, and others just want to support the school in different grade levels. Our action step was this year to tap more into talent around the district. This September, maybe October, our ELL teacher, Mary Beth Sarr, she partners with the high school teacher, Mary Merkel Scotland, and they do a presentation for our paras and our teachers, and I believe they did it for Polson, correct? On how to work with ELL students, and they open it with Mary Merkel Scotland speaking in French, for that sense of like, what are you talking about? And now some of these kids feel we're coming there with English as a second language, and some of the strategies, etc. Last year we started this one and continue with this of our coaches meeting with the ELL teacher to support. So when they work with the students, they're following up on the work and they're supporting the ELL teacher, who sometimes can be left, not sure how to be the math strategies or whatever. So that will continue this year. In terms of systems, last year we spent a lot of time, school level, district level, looking at our schedule. We wanted to make some changes to our schedule. We wanted to add instructional time, true passing time. That's where we had a lot of leadership opportunities, a lot of volunteers, a lot of people getting involved in that. And we brought that to Gail and to Craig, and we went back to the drawing board and we put together what we feel is a really good schedule for our kids this year. So that was a team effort, and it's really played out well. When we looked at 22-23, all of a sudden the building project is taking, it will have an impact on us. But what we don't want to have is, while we're in school, have the building project impact programs. So as you know, that 300 wing in June of 23, that will go offline, and that construction will start in June as soon as school ends, and will continue through the course of the school year. So we have interventionists over there, we have Spanish there, we have coding there. So we have to work very hard as a team, really a lot of teamwork, to make sure those programs are not impacted wherever we're able to have them. So the kids can enjoy them, and teachers don't feel like their programs are being heard. We have some pretty good ideas, and that's going to be a lot of work. And even today, Dr. Cook and I were walking that area, and we realized, geez, we got to relocate this group. We got to relocate this group. But we don't want to ever say to parents and kids, "Oh, we're not going to have this program next year because of the building project." That was our commitment, and we're going to be able to do that. But that will be our work in terms of our system and the way we look at things.
All right, so Paulson, looking at talent, similar to what other people have said, and this is really just a snapshot focusing on one area. And tonight I'd like to focus a little bit on the professional development that we do overall. Like the other schools, we continue to do work in instructional rounds and coaching cycles. The addition of the math coach has been huge, and that's already well underway, not only working with teachers, but also working with the paraprofessionals and helping them with instructional strategies so they can better support students when they're in the classrooms as well. It's an ongoing process, as we know, and I think that's the most important part, is that it's not a one-shot professional development over and done. It continues throughout the year. And we, as Frank had mentioned, we did do some work with English learners, English language learners, and we have continued to do that now by setting up SSTs that focus just on students where English is a second language, and what progress are they making in intervention. We had some staff members attend a conference on restorative practices. There were several hours and days long, and they came back, shared with the leadership team, and as a result have made changes through our discipline process. What's happening, how is it happening, how are we communicating with parents, what empowering the teachers in order to change the students' behavior in a positive way. Our social worker works very closely with Madison Youth and Family Services and is setting up what we call game changers.
So last year, we were recruiting members of the community to be mentors. And we've started last week even having our first connection between a student and a mentor that will meet weekly throughout the year and have that connection hopefully for many years with them. And again, it's multiple factors all at once, but we're trying to find the right match, but also bring in people from a diverse background to be able to be positive role models and connections for our students. Initiated by a teacher, we called it Pop-ins, but it's teachers going to other teachers' classrooms. And it's really very informal, but they're going into start as and look at an empty classroom. So how is it set up? How are the desks arranged? What's on the walls? And they're starting to see a little bit more about teachers who might be in the same grade, a different grade level, but their same content area, or into different content areas. See what other people are doing. And then we're branching out and going in while teachers are teaching. And it's just one person at a time, non-evaluative, but learning from each other. We know that, as many people have said, the talent within, we want to capitalize on that and learn from the experts that we have within our buildings as well. And we continue to have team mentors as a formal program, training people, but also providing support for those beginning teachers. That also connects to having student teachers that you'll see up there as well. We had 2 student teachers. In fact, we had another student teacher start yesterday for this year. I had 3 administrative interns last year. We have 5 paras that have either started to go back to college to pursue a degree, whether it's in social work and in an RBT, a BCBA, special education teacher. So the work that they're experiencing and learning from colleagues every day is helping them make life decisions that they're continuing to grow from. So we're, as I said, with the case studies, that's happening with coaches, with interventionists, with the English ELL teacher, lots of different areas. Like Becky mentioned, we've got our monthly social emotional SSTs as well. So it's really drilling down onto high needs subgroups, but all students. There's constant conversation about what can we do, what's working, and what do we need to tweak in order to make improvements. So our plan for next year is to continue on this path, and you've heard it, whether it's through the training for dyslexia that we have teachers doing as well, training for administrators. I was with the high school staff last week up at a conference in Hartford, and it was a shock to the system, and in terms of we haven't been going out to conferences for a long time. So the connections and the networking there again was great. And as administrators, we set that model for our teachers, and then we support them when they say, I'd like to go to a library conference on November 8th. No problem, let's make sure it fits and we can support that. So there's a lot of, if you go out to the conference, what do you bring back and who are you sharing that with? So it's not just going out and doing it, but it's the action steps that follow up from that afterwards. In terms of systems, I chose to focus on something a little bit different, but specific to Paulson, in that that middle age group can be very challenging for some of our students, where they push and pull at that independence, but they need the structure at the same time. There's skills that some children have developed and others haven't. So we really focused on trying to teach them explicitly how to utilize executive functioning skills. So we had a presentation like the high school did from Peg Dawson for our teachers, which was great. We've got books that just even the title of Smart But Scattered. It tells you a lot about middle school students as well. And we had worked with this leadership team over the summer that identified key areas of what we called the Paulson Academy. The leadership team, not Martha and I, but the leadership team rolled that out to the whole staff in August about key things that we want all of our students to do, regardless of what grade level. And it looks a little bit different at each grade level. So how do you write an email? Because sometimes the teachers are getting emails that look more like text messages. So starting with the name and the content, a subject, signing the name at the end, using a planner. We don't mind what planner you use, but if you want a paper and pencil, here are some choices. If you want to use your Google Calendar and your Google list, this is how you can use that. So really giving options so that students can make the decision as to what works best for them. And that's ongoing. So we just had the midpoint of the trimester. Let's get everybody to log on to Infinite Campus.
see their grades, see what's missing, what do they need to do, what's working, what isn't working. So that reflection process along the way as well. And then students who might need a little bit more, well, there's resources that school councils have that will be able to pull small groups or go into classrooms and do whole class lessons as well. So this is definitely a work in progress. We feel like we're off to a really good start with the executive functioning, and we're hoping to formalize some more of our procedures as we live with them and decide what works and doesn't work. And again, this will be one of those topics that I think we'll discuss with our students at our PAC meeting to see what do they think. So again, we value that student voice and we use it to help us make decisions moving forward.
At the at the high school last year, an area of focus, as you can see, was to promote collaborative practices and to foster leadership opportunities for our faculty, towards the goal of continuous improvement. The bulk of our evidence in this particular area was focused around our work with NEAS, and we next week have our collaborative conference, and therefore last year we spent a great deal of time working as a faculty together to put together our report that we submitted to NEASC, and that was something that not only promoted self-reflection and working with the entire faculty, but was something that also not only worked with the entire faculty, garnered their input. And in addition to that, one of the pieces that we worked on was developing a new core value statement, and we've detailed with some of those bullet points some of the things that we did in that regard that really kind of went step by step in offering opportunities to our full faculty to be collaborative, to have input. And this was something that did, garner, again, the input of everyone that is a part of our school community. These practices, in addition, offered a great deal of leadership opportunities for members of our faculty. And provided leadership opportunities for people that chaired standing committees, as well as our steering committee members. And this is something that, as work is continuing this, through this year, as again, we are preparing for next week's visit. For next year, you can see an area of focus is to provide high quality support for faculty and staff. And one of the things that, as you're aware, as you supported it in our budget last year, was we are implementing a math coach at the high school this year, and they are assistant teachers with the implementation of an illustrative math curriculum in grade 9 algebra classes. We are also continuing coaching cycles in ELA. In addition, we are doing instructional rounds this year to examine student experience, and in addition to generate and identify areas of priority when it comes to instructional moves. So that is something that we're working on. We are also continuing with our practice of evaluation calibration, which is also a very reflective practice where not only do we work as evaluators with our coordinators of going into a faculty member's classroom, but we invite the faculty member to join us after as we go through our teacher eval plan and kind of look at pieces of the lesson that we felt were successful. In addition to that, we're continuing to provide teachers with continued opportunities to mentor one another, and continuing to try to create formal and informal leadership opportunities for faculty and staff and supporting them in those new roles. And a great example of that would be those new advisory roles that we have this year.
And under systems, we did talk about this a little bit, but I want to just review how I wanted to highlight the focus on formulating a committee to review and design and improve our fall lessons. And just to backtrack a little, two teachers who were pursuing a degree in educational leadership, and they came to me and were looking for a meaningful internship. So I have a meaningful internship for you. We've been hearing a lot about PAW and how to improve. It was more handing out and telling kids things versus that really key focus on developing relationships with students. So they took on this charge and put in dozens and dozens and dozens of hours. And they started to get a lot of input from the faculty, student body, and we started to see a vision of advisory. We came to the Board of Ed, and very thankfully, we appreciate greatly the support of 2 stipends for these 2 advisors who are working. Really, it's like second job to create this program, and the initial advisory is meeting weekly. When I say weekly, anytime there's a typical Wednesday, like tomorrow we have parent conferences, shortened day, we're not doing advisory or wellness because it's a special schedule. But on a normal scheduled day, advisory will be meeting, and the two advisors, they're not just creating these lessons on their own. They're getting input from students. They're meeting with experts in social and emotional and mental health, including school counselors, our social workers, our school psychologists, clinical psychologists from Madison Youth and Family Services. So it's pretty exhaustive. And I've been impressed. I did meet with them in August and they said to me, we're not ready. We can't do it. I said, we're never going to be ready. We're doing it. We'll be fine. And we're building it while we're flying it, and it's still flying. We're getting a lot of good feedback. I have an advisory group. I know my 12 freshmen more than I know any other kid in the building right now. And they actually say hi to me in the hall purposely now. And you should have saw their faces when I walked in the first day. I was their advisor. It was pretty cool. But I'm really proud of their work, and we're looking forward to doing some great things. Melanie referred to, a charge to get some student leaders. We had too many students, so we had to go back to the drawing board. And I told the two advisory chairs, that's normal. We're going to be remaking our plans on an ongoing basis, and we're really trying to turn this into a student-centered piece every Wednesday, where the advisors are part of the facilitating, not managing. And it's coming along really nicely. We'll have some good data for you at the end of this year. Our action step is a little bit different, but we did talk about this last year with the Board of Ed. We transitioned one of our school counselors to a college and career counselor. That transition has been excellent. She is currently in the process of looking to expand opportunities for students around things with internships, externships. One of the pieces that we didn't even anticipate is she's taken a lot of the college process off the other school counselors. So now they just automatically have some time to support some of the mental health needs and the stress and anxiety that high school causes. And if you have a senior right now, you definitely know what I'm talking about. It's a really tough time of the year. But I was talking to our guidance program coordinator, and she said it's been an incredible transition. The feedback about the college and career counselor this early in the transition has been outstanding, and our school counselors have found some unique ways to try and give students more access to them at student requested approaches, as opposed to them reaching out. So we'll have some really interesting input for you as well. And just timing was great. Furniture we ordered last year for the College and Career Center came in today and was installed. It looks outstanding. I want to move my office in there, but it's obviously not a good move. So if you're in the high school, you should check it out. It's outstanding and really has a nice feel in that room where students, they're in there all the time with Mrs. Coyle, and it's been really positive, and we're looking to develop some unique opportunities for kids, and she is thriving in that role. So that will be our focus. One of our focuses around systems, keeping in mind that advisory will be a focus, for the rest of our time together. And it's been, again, very positive thus far.
I just want to recap that we've only highlighted one action step for you today. There's many, many action steps, but you can see the investment that everyone has in their plans and the thoughtfulness that they put into their plans. So I want to thank the admin team again and their teams behind them in their school buildings for all of the work in each of these 4 areas, because your passion is, very evident, and the benefits to kids are very evident as well. So more to come.
Yeah, so what's next? Actually, I'd like to echo what Gail shared there too. And one of the things you never hear out of this group is that students aren't ready or they can't do something. And so we just talked tonight at K-3 students doing accountable talk and perseverance and problem solving. And when they talk about K-3, they're not just talking about 3rd grade. They really are talking about starting that in kindergarten. So it's really impressive. But I want to stress that again. I never hear from them like students aren't ready or they can't do that. Talk about a lot of student leadership, a lot of student voice. I know that's important to the board. So just really want to thank the administrators for gravitating to this work, and then just always having that can-do attitude and support of our students and believe in our students. And the book to the high school and me asking, this has been 2 years in the making at least. So we're really excited to showcase what all the work they've done, and the staff is really kind of, so we're proud of that, and so we will share any results we get immediately. Any further questions? I know that worked well asking questions as we went forward, and so we will post these plans for the public. We'll continue sharing with PTO leadership, and then as Gail says, the work's next. So this was just one action step for each area. There's multiple, and so again, I appreciate the administration for monitoring that and pushing that going forward.
Yeah, I would just add real quick that we each received a thick packet today that we can bring home and put in a 3-ring binder. It's already ring hold for us. And those are the full, I guess, the full plans for each school. This is always a long presentation for the board, and but it is so appreciated, and it is always so awesome to be able to just kind of get in touch with our incredible team of administrators, and like Gail said, she stole some of my wording there, but to see how invested you are, see how excited you are, see how in touch you are as building administrators, and that you're active leaders, and that you're actively accepting the priorities of the Board of Ed and the district leadership, and implementing it wholeheartedly, and not just paying lip service. It just feels like there's a lot of momentum in the right direction that has got to counterbalance what the kids have been through in the past couple of years, and also what the staff has been through the past couple of years. And you're giving everyone a charge and motivation, and the social emotional stuff has come to the forefront, especially with COVID. It's besides the education itself, which is still very important, it's the single most important thing. And you guys are wrapping your arms around it, and you're really taking it on. And I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate it. And I know that I've had discussions with other board members. We all appreciate it greatly. And we're so thankful and appreciative for the talent we have facing us right now tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, and you are welcome. Thank you, everyone. So tonight at Finance Committee, the Finance Committee finalized our budget guidelines and budget calendar for this year, and so that is forwarded on to the board. And I don't know if we want to address that or say that for next meeting. Maybe stay with the next meeting. Yeah. All right, so that concludes my report. Thank you. All right, well, thank you. I'd also like to say though, please send any questions about things you'd like to know about the budget to the committee, and I'll try to compile it with group intelligence. Things I can't answer, Seth can, or Emily can, so we get a good people ask questions for that.
Okay, board member comments. I would just like to comment generally and not specifically in response to anything that occurred earlier today in the meeting. That I would like to assure everybody as your chair that not only I, but also our superintendent are highly responsive to communications from advocates, from community members, whether in the school community or outside the school community. We will continue to do that, and just continue to be responsive to folks who reach out to us with questions, with comments, with suggestions, with recommendations, whether those are ultimately taken or not. We at least communicate, and I just want you all to know that ball has not been dropped. Anyone else with board member comments?
I just have a question.
Sure.
Do you think that maybe we could add in sort of like a monthly update as to like
comments that we received from the public and how it's been responded to and updates on it. That way, when we get these sort of isolated random emails, we're kind of like, well, you know, where did this come from? But it's been ongoing, you know, for a couple of months or whatever, but you know, they didn't necessarily address it to the whole board. But then when they finally do, to us, it's sort of out of the blue. Whereas you've already been dealing with it for a while. And so maybe if we had more
The monthly digest.
sort of, yes. You know, and it doesn't have to be like, it could just be an email. You know, like this is what's been happening, this is how it was addressed, this is what our plans are to, you know, continue discussions or whatever. And then, you know, we won't feel like,
We don't know
yeah,
what really, what the issue is.
Yeah, let me work with Craig and Galen and Emily on some method of doing that, because we do have to be careful.
Yeah.
That we're not just, you know, everything out, you know, with FOIA issues and all of that, and people responding to stuff and.
it's just hard when they
but-
see like the whole board. You
Yeah,
know,
and
after
you
they've
only
already-
have some of the context.
Yes, and it is clear to me that we've only had, you know, like 1/16 of the information that was
Yeah.
previously requested or shared. And often I think, you know, we end up seeing the tail end of it where they're frustrated.
Right,
And
we
you
don't
don't
know.
know the context of it or what had happened previously.
In today's example, I think I did provide enough.
Yes, yeah, no.
Not only prior to this meeting, but a couple months ago.
So, yeah,
So,
not actually.
but- Yeah. But
Just in general, right?
there's definitely something to be said for that. We just have to find a way to communicate it so we're not violating FOIA principles and all
And I'm
that.
wondering if there's a way for us to communicate with the public that, you know, while it's certainly acceptable to email your board of ed members, that only the chair speaks for the board. And so that they were not getting communication from the
Yeah.
rest of the board because it's not appropriate.
Yeah, we would.
Could probably just add just like a little notice to
You were doing
respond.
that, but anyone get a lot of emails from the community.
Yeah,
Could there be an auto reply where it like automatically says someone will get back to you, don't expect?
that's one good idea, yeah.
Like just auto.
So, 'cause just so you know, when somebody hits our contact us on the website, it goes to Zoe, who's our communications director, and it goes to Emily and I, because Emily's the secretary and I'm the chair. So Emily and I see everything when it comes in. We coordinate with Zoe, who usually provides the answer, because it's usually a district question, not a board question. So Zoe coordinates with the superintendent to provide an answer. And then if somebody does a follow-up, it usually goes, it escalates and Craig provides a response.
Yeah, and I will say, if someone thinks it's gonna be longer than 2 days, you know, if she wants to check in with Seth and or Emily, you know, she'll say that, she'll let them know it's gonna take, you know, a little bit longer than 2 days, thank you for your email. And then when Seth replies, he very clear in terms of I'm replying on behalf of the board, or if I'm replying, you know, saying maybe I could, you know, I could get a response from other board members, but I'm replying response. So I think sometimes, you know, not getting the answer that somebody wants is sometimes comes back to us as we're not answering the question or something like that. But I think that and we try really hard to be, you know, direct in terms of, you know, our rationale and things like that. I think when it comes to budget in particular, we have to be very transparent, and we oftentimes get tasked with being more transparent. I think that's a big part of what we try to do in that process.
And if any of you ever have questions related to the specific issues that are raised by someone who raises a comment, public comment, or hits the contact us on the website, you know, please let me know. I'm more than happy to include you and, you know, keep you updated. as we go.
Just,
Try to.
I think a lot of times these are issues that maybe started before some of us were even part of this, so
Yeah.
you know, we're a little confused.
Occasionally, a single board member or a couple of board members might be singled out to receive a communication from someone in the public. So in that case, I think, and this is what I have done in the past, and I, at the time, I cleared it with the chair, that I responded back to the person saying, thank you for your email, I am forwarding this to our executive committee, or to the chair, et cetera. It's the same sort of,
Or even with this email reply, I'm copying
yeah,
that's great.
and then the answer will come from there and not from me.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we did.
yeah, that's great. We appreciate it. So it's just helpful to keep centralized messaging to, keep everyone on the same page. But I greatly appreciate that. I just want to reach out real quick to Stephen and Maureen to see if you had any comments or anything.
I don't. Thank you so much.
I'll pass at this point in time. My questions would run for a while, and I don't think we want to do that at 10 o'clock. So
Mercy.
we'll do it at another time.
Merciful. All right, any audience response to information presented? I don't see the audience. Anyone online? No. We wore them all out.
They went to bed.
Anybody have any future agenda items to request of the chair? Yes.
That we remove future items.
We had talked about that, yeah, and actually it serves a purpose, and that's why Craig and Wendy didn't take it off of this agenda, but it bears discussion real quick. The reasoning behind it is it's a tool that the chair can use to ensure that if a member of the board does have an important subject that they want to bring up, that they can raise it here now. That if they want to get it on the agenda for the next agenda or some agenda soon. So it's kind of like being open and not being overly controlling of the agenda. So we tend to talk one-on-one, and if people have things they want to bring up, they let me know anyway. But it's there just in case somebody needs to bring something up.
I've been there.
So thank you. Meetings and dates of importance are attached, but one thing that came up that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is that the November meeting will be a little bit off its norm. The first November meeting will be a little bit off its date. There's only one in November? Yes, there are two. So there's one on the 12th instead of the.
There's only one board meeting on the 15th, but there is another date of committee.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry. Well, someone correct.
Not full
That was.
Oh, wait, November 15th, you said there's
Two board meetings in November.
okay.
Sorry, yeah, it was.
Yeah, the 50th, yeah, we
December.
sleeping in on the 29th. We have a full board meeting plus the curriculum meeting and facilities committee meeting on the 15th. Then on the 29th, we have a finance committee, policy committee, and then a board meeting as well.
I think some of the confusion came from, some of us had a standing meeting on our calendar that from the olden days that appeared that we looked like we were meeting November 8th. We're not.
So November
Our
26th.
next meeting is November 15th. November 20th. What is it called?
Right. November 22nd.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's for me because I forgot that we weren't having. But we should get it, bring it next time.
Thank you.
Bring it the next week.
All right, I need a motion to adjourn. Jen, second by
Second.
Kathy.
So no problem.
Okay, and that would be at 9:58. Any discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hey. All right, we're adjourned, thank you very much.